Hello and welcome back to the Not That Oscar podcast. I am joined again by the amazing Ben Gibbons. We are talking to you today about Supergirl. Ben, how are you, first of all?
I'm doing fantastic. Kind of melting in the heat, but, other than that, it's not too bad.
We are actually recording this on the hottest day of the year.
Yes, we are.
So I just saw that it's like the hottest June we've ever had. Somerset had 36 points. Anyway, so if you see us melting, excuse that, all right? But we wanted to record this episode the seconds that we got out of our screenings. I mean, quite literally, I think Ben has been home for about 5 minutes.
Yes.
Everything is fresh, top of mind. We have a lot to get through. I think we'll sort of start off with how's movie watching in general been since you last been on. Anything particularly exciting, or have you just been counting down the moments for Supergirl?
Yeah, so I mean, movie watching in general, I jumped into the old Supergirl movie, the 1984
Nice.
Supergirl movie in the last couple of days, because I just wanted to kind of like have a comparison. I think maybe I saw it years ago, but it wasn't something that was fresh in my mind in any way, shape, or form. And so I watched that, and it was, no spoilers, terrible.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. And I was like, okay, so low bar going into whatever this is going to be. But I'm just kind of excited about all the different things that are coming up next month, especially with things like the Odyssey, Spider-Man, things like that. And then this was one of the ones that I was counting down the days to be able to see. So, yeah.
I think this was kind of advertised to us as the start of summer blockbusters. This was the movie to kick off sort of July, August, that sort of 8 to 10 week run where the big blockbusters of the year generally come out before your final few right at the end in sort of December time. So there was a lot of anticipation going into this. And did you find yourself excited for it? I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Superman last year as well. But how did you feel approaching Supergirl? Were you excited for this edition? What feels early on in the DC, reboot? I thought this might come later.
Yeah, so I mean, I was excited, very much so, and it was a thing of, like, the big thing that was attractive to me about this project specifically was it's the first one that is not James Gunn's baby, right? So while we've had Superman that came out and that was directed by James Gunn, written by James Gunn, all those different things, we've also had TV shows that have come out. So we had Creature Commandos that came out at the end of 2024. That was officially the first project to come out under the DCU banner. After that, we had Peacemaker Season 2, which has this weird kind of like push and pull, bringing itself from the DCEU into the DCU. And so it was a little bit of a funky thing. That was on TV. It was a great one. I really enjoyed the second season. It was a lot of fun. And then we had Superman. So everything that we've had up to this point was James Gunn. It was very James Gunn. It was James Gunn music. It was James Gunn kind of like tone of humor, style, everything. Everything about it was going to be his thing. And so I was like, okay, the DCU can't just be James Gunn's thing. Obviously, he's going to be the kind of like architect of it. He's going to be someone who's behind the scenes and doing a lot of stuff. But I don't want to just see his projects. I want to see the other projects that come out that are not his name everywhere. So that was the thing that was the most attractive and exciting about this for me.
And I agree in some cases, and sometimes I don't. I think any success, any failures should still be attributed in some part to James Gunn. It's the same way as for Marvel, and I'm going to make a lot of comparisons to Marvel throughout this, as I think is only natural. They are the two biggest superhero realms.
Sure.
In that, whenever something fails at Marvel, people blame Kevin Feige. Like, he is their go-to man to blame.
Yes.
When things go well, they very rarely, praise him. And it's often the direct filmmaker and the crew behind it, which I think is sometimes a little bit unfair. I think the love should be shared. I was intrigued to see how much James Gunn would step back for this, because DC is now his baby, right? As you said, he's been given full control alongside Peter Safran to sort of run it as they please. And I think deservedly so. I was excited by James Gunn taking over DC. I'd liked where he had already been in Marvel, and we'd seen him cross over for the Suicide Squad. I was nervous that he would not step back, and I'll get into whether I think he did or didn't. But it was exciting still to be like, right, well, there's going to be some sort of fresh eyes, fresh ideas coming to this. And I would say I like a 7 out of 10 anticipation level. Certainly not my highest, but also I don't know a lot about Supergirl going into this. I haven't read her comics. Haven't seen the original movie in '84. I think you said it was.
Yeah.
The only iteration of Supergirl I'd seen was the CW network show that she had, and when she appeared alongside the Flash and DC Legends and stuff like that. That sort of very muted version of Supergirl, because they were running off a TV budget. So I was excited to see a grand scale, and we'll talk about how I think the use of the budget that went and stuff. General thoughts on the movie. We'll kind of try and keep this opening 5 minutes or so spoiler free. So if you're listening right now and you're like, I want to be spoiler, you can listen. We're going to review it and give our very general thoughts, and then I'll give you a warning and we'll dive in. And if you get spoiled, that's your own fault. So for the first 5 minutes, let's try and avoid spoilers, but whatever comes natural, I guess. General thoughts, Ben. How did you feel coming out of Supergirl? What was the emotions like?
So I am going to be honest, like with Supergirl, I had a lot of, as well as excitement and anticipation. Obviously, I've seen the kind of like critic reviews that went up online. I saw your video where it's 56% Rotten Tomatoes, which obviously that's 56% of critics that were approving of the movie or thought it was good. And then obviously quite a high majority that didn't feel the same way. And I was like, okay, so I don't know. And that, I always feel a little bit like, tainted to some extent, because I'm like looking for what's wrong. I'm looking for what other people are kind of saying is not good about a thing.
It's very hard to disconnect once you've seen reviews, and I think
100%.
I think the general audience nowadays, I would say, people that aren't tapped into movies, that go maybe 4 times a year, won't care what the critics say, and will constantly be like, oh, the critics can't have fun, I'm going to make up my own mind, which I think is great. For ourselves that are a lot more intertwined, I really struggle to disconnect from what the critics have said, because I'm always seeking it out as well. I'm like, I want to know what they think, and then I go in and I'm like, right, clean slate. Let me just try and enjoy this. And I'm like, oh, there's that problem that I recognize. They spoke about that, and it's, as you said, it's pointing out like, oh, I've got to try and stop finding the bad in all of this.
Yeah. So I try to keep myself as clean with it as I could, and what I did was, like, I didn't read any reviews. I didn't go in depth on finding out what people had as criticisms or anything like that. I just was aware that there was an overall kind of like half and half, quite a divisive response to the film. And as I was watching it and sitting in my seat, a lot of the movie, I was a little bit like, okay, the first thing that's kind of like standing out to me and making me feel weird about a lot of things that are going on is just kind of the pacing, if I'm honest. Like, everything felt like it was just jumping from this to this to this to this, and it just felt very rushed. And I was like, okay, I know it's a comic book story, I know it's based on an 8-issue series of a comic book story, and I guess they're trying to condense it and put everything in there, and they're just rushing along. But I was like, okay, I'm also not feeling super emotional about the characters. I'm not caring that much, even with like the things that, are very foundational to the story and what's going on with this other character of Ruthie. And then like motivations for like even the villains. We're going to talk more about the villain specifically, because I have a lot to say about him and how I felt about him. But like, just there wasn't a lot of an emotional response to anything that was going on in at least the first and second acts. And then when it got to the third act and the latter part of the third act, there were some things that I kind of like enjoyed and that I felt stood out to me a lot more. So obviously we can talk about that a lot more in a bit as well. But yeah, I think for most of the movie, I was kind of sat in my seat and I was like, okay, sure. But there wasn't anything that was like clicking in a big way. There wasn't anything that was making me excited or care that deeply. What were your thoughts with the movie? How did you find it?
I found the main issue with this was just the scripting in general. I think all dialogue and all just main set pieces were just so bland and predictable. And it's not only that there wasn't much to it, it's what we were delivered. We've seen time and time again. It felt like every standard superhero. Like, if I was to, I don't want to say that they are like ChatGPT, but the script felt like you asked it to write me a superhero script where the main character has a cape and is cousins with another famous man that also has a cape. It felt like they were just desperate to have Supergirl in the DC universe, and they didn't really care how they sort of thumbed her in. I didn't find myself particularly connected to the character. There wasn't much emotion there. Not that we necessarily jumped straight into her, because I do think the getting a look at their planet being destroyed, and sort of how both Kara and Clark make their way to Earth, I like that. I think that was one of the strongest parts of the movie. But in general, the rest of the plot, the villains were not entertaining. I didn't feel there was any threat to any of the characters involved. I didn't find Lobo's appearance particularly, like, we obviously knew he was going to be in it, but when he was on screen, there was no additional excitement to his appearance. You know, even in like the Marvel movies, when we know a character's going to turn up, it's like, wow, they're here to make a statement. And Lobo feels like it was almost a marketing technique to be like, oh, Lobo's in our movie. And it was like, this is so cool, him being brought to life. We know that it's a lifelong dream, basically, of Jason Momoa to be playing Lobo. And then he's just there. And that, I find it so difficult to actually put into words how I felt about this movie, because the entire experience for me was very bland, which is upsetting, because I think there are parts of it, and I think this will be my spoiler warning now. I've already kind of dipped into the plot a little bit. So spoiler warning, if you've not seen the movie, what are you doing? Click off, come back once you have seen it. I just didn't find anything that they were doing with Lobo, with the main villain Krem, threatening, exciting. I think the environments were poor. How did you... I think the best way for us to break this down is let's kind of go like character by character, and sort of address how they were portrayed throughout the film. So we'll start with the obvious. How did you find Supergirl? How did you find Millie Alcock as our leading lady?
I think Millie did as much as she could. I think you're very right in terms of the script being one of the things that fell down in this film. I think she did as much as she could with what she was given in terms of the story. And I really enjoyed the flashbacks. So we're going into the spoilers. I really enjoyed when they flashed back and they had the experience on Argo, which was that breakaway planet from Krypton. I really enjoyed when they had like her experiencing intense emotion, or her being depressed on Earth and having that kind of experience and being confused with like her relationship with Clark and things. I thought that was all good, and it gave her an opportunity to shine and to display emotion. But for a lot of this movie, her character was someone who was just kind of like running away from a thing and didn't want to experience anything. And there wasn't anything compelling about that, because there was no reason to kind of care about her. Tony Stark, so let's compare it to the MCU. Tony Stark is a person who, you know, morally sucks. He's kind of like in the beginning of Iron Man, he is just someone who's like a warmonger. He does not give a crap about anything anymore. His parents have died and he's given up on a lot of things, but he's just in it for money and fame and fortune, and that's kind of like it. He's just kind of motivated by his own selfish desires. Millie Alcock, and Supergirl specifically, isn't motivated by anything apart from not wanting to feel things, but wanting to get to a red sun so that she can feel things enough to not be able to feel things when she gets drunk. Yeah. And that didn't feel all that compelling for me. I liked the realism. It felt very like
It felt very like single layered.
Yes.
As you say, like, I like the sort of adolescence, gritty, edgy youth style that they have with Supergirl in this. I think Millie Alcock does brilliantly. She's very like, oh, I'm against the rules, I don't conform. I think she does that well. But that's kind of like where it ends. Yeah. There's no additional layers for us to explore, because after the first 20 minutes of her being like, oh, I'm a party animal, I don't want to, you know, face my responsibilities, it's like, well, we've done that, we've explored that emotion, what now with the character? And I think they then try and swivel the storyline and the focus to other characters to carry that emotion, to carry that excitement and the whole plot line, which doesn't make sense, because I understand obviously every movie's going to have side characters in it, but this is a Supergirl film. It didn't feel like it was telling her story apart from a 20-minute segment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of her story came through in the end, but I don't want to get to the end just yet. But
Yeah.
I think what, like you said, I like the grittier take on it. I like this kind of like idea of approaching a more tough kind of version of Supergirl. When you talk about like the CW version, the Arrowverse version, it is this like really happy-go-lucky, positive character. And when you think about their story for any degree of time, that doesn't make sense. Kara was raised on Krypton and had years with her parents, and then everyone and everything she knew died and was destroyed and crumbled
Yeah.
around her. That sucks. And seeing that be kind of authenticated and given space to kind of exist, I really enjoyed that they were kind of trying to approach that. But yeah, it was, as you say, it just was very one note, and it just kind of got tired quickly. And so there wasn't anything exciting about it. And even when they introduce elements of like, oh, red sun, green sun, yellow sun, and playing with these different things like the traffic light suns, it just didn't do all that much. It was just like, okay, like, but we know that the other sun is going to come up and then everything's going to be fine. Like you say, there were no stakes to it, because it was like,
Yeah.
oh, she's in the shade and she's not going to see the green sun, but she's dying, but she's not going to die. The yellow sun's going to be there in a second and everything's
Yeah.
going to be fine. So it was very much just like, okay, I'm just waiting for something to happen.
It's my main problem with that segment was that when they landed on that planet, I don't know the names of any of these planets, by the way, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to describe them. But
Sure.
the green sun, yellow sun planet, so when they land, you see the yellow sun disappearing. Like, surely you should have it, they arrive and the green sun is the only thing we see. Because we then sort of have like, well, how the hell is she going to get out of this? And then you get the relief of the yellow sun rising, and she's like, oh, this is the planet I heard about. It has it orbits two suns.
Sure.
But you're already given the solution to the problem at the beginning of the problem. So there's no roller coaster there. It's just, you're just like, well, if I wait 5-10 minutes, I know she'll be fine. And obviously, you know Supergirl is going to make it alive out of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still that emotion that it can drive those emotions of, oh my God, like, is she going to be permanently damaged in some way? Who's going to rescue her? How is she going to be rescued? And I felt like they kind of just didn't know how to deal with someone as powerful as Supergirl when you can be healed by a sun that is prominent on so many planets. And I'm not going to say I have the answer to how you can fix that immediately, but in that one instance, don't show me the solution immediately, because I know eventually it will come back around. How did you feel about the main, like, secondary main character, it felt like, with Ruthie, played by a little girl called Eve Ridley, who, I've got to be honest, I think her performance was pretty good for her age. Like, kids in films, like, there's this sort of old perception is like, oh, don't work with kids because they're difficult or whatever it might be. And I think she does great. You know, she doesn't have the most convoluted character of all. She's, again, very one tone. It's, I want revenge, and this is all I'm going to do for the next 2 hours.
Yep.
But how did you feel about the performance before you talk about maybe the character?
I mean, you've described it, though, because it is that one note thing, you know?
Yeah.
So as good as she did in that role, as much as she was kind of like playing out this thing of being hurt and harmed by what happened to her parents and her brother, and then she was seeking revenge, it was just all that all the time, and there was no letting go of it. And so everything that meant anything to me in this movie happened in the last 15 minutes. You know, everything that I actually gave a crap about and any sort of development. And that's not how a movie's meant to be. You know, if you're in a TV episode and it's 20 minutes long, cool. But this, so much of it was just one thing. And so, yeah, with her character, Ruthie, she's interesting as a side character and good as a support for someone, for Supergirl to bounce off. But again, they're just two characters stuck in their ways doing nothing until something happens.
I also think they're so similar in terms of they both lost their parents in a tragic way. They're trying to seek sort of an understanding of who they are, where they belong. That there's no kind of like light for either of them to grab onto with each character. And it does eventually become that, in that Supergirl is, no, you shouldn't kill, like, this will ruin who you are. You are showing you're free to Krem by letting him live, letting him walk away, and him seeing you go live your life. But that's so last minute that the rest of their companionship is again just monotone.
It's still that. It's still
Yeah.
that, because the entire rest of the time as well, even though they are these similar characters with similar backgrounds and similar things that happen to them, Kara's advice throughout the thing is just like, oh, you have to be good. Don't kill people. Don't give in to revenge. And the thing is, we don't really have much payoff for that. There is the scene in the middle where her mother gives her the advice, and it's like, you don't have to be kind. You don't have to be nice, but please be good. You have to be good. And so then you have like a motivation for why she's being good. But even that creates other complications along with in the story. But like, I don't know why she clings so tightly to that. As I guess it's like her mother's dying wish, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that then." But like, she doesn't believe in it. So for her, or at least it doesn't feel like she should believe in it at this point, right? Like, it feels very unearned as a thing where it's a life lesson. It's just words that was spoken to her, and so why she is so vehement about sticking to that and telling Ruthie this, I don't get, frankly. So then being the same and then having this one contrasting point, the contrasting point doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know how the character got there.
And she has no experience of being good thus far. Like, once she'd left Krypton, she's just been drunk the whole time. So personally, I didn't feel like Supergirl, as you said, believed what she was pursuing. And that she was like, well, maybe what they were trying to go for was that Supergirl didn't think that she could be good, and that maybe she could make something great out of Ruthie. And it's like, okay, well, if I can't be what my parents wanted me to be, maybe I can help guide Ruthie down the right path. And that I kind of understand, but that's not really addressed. That's something that I have to work quite hard to pick up on.
Yeah.
And most general audiences aren't always picking up on these things. Sometimes people just go in and like, I just want to watch a film. I just want to sit back. Some people see it as like, I'm going to turn my brain off and just watch images in front of me. Which I think there should be a middle ground in this, and there should be good big action sequences for us to watch, but there also has to be some emotion and some understanding from the audiences with the characters and what they're going through. And I would have liked Supergirl to have just addressed, look, I don't feel I'm going down the right path, but you can, let me help you. So it felt just a bit twisted in terms of what they were trying to go for, with both the characters individually and how they intertwined. How do you
I agree.
And then look, the main point here is the villain. There's always a villain. This one, did Krem feel like the big bad that you wanted out of this film?
Krem was stupid. And not just like stupid as kind of like a villain, but like stupid as an individual. He was a stupid character and person when he went and interacted with things, right? Like, I think what they were going for in setting him up, and when they had him in every single scene, he'd go into any scene and it'd steal whatever was there, right? So this is a thing that you immediately pick up on because it is just in your face. So any scene that he's in, he walks into the environment, and then within a couple of seconds, he steals things. Not good things. Things that are just kind of garbage. Things that are trash. Things that are rubbish. In the first scene, we see him, and he kind of like goes into a house, and he's going to steal all this like weapons and materials. And that's a haul. That's something that he can resell and get like money for with his trade. But instead of focusing on that thing and that being important to him, he steals the pie that is there, and he's like, hey, I want some pie. And then he eats some pie. Later on, he steals cereal out of a sink. So it's not like a good meal. It's not like something in the fridge or something that they've put time or effort into. This is just something that was left there, probably overnight, and he could get sick from. I know he probably won't, because he's this alien with the strength of 1,000 men. But then later, he goes into a prison cell and he steals prison gruel off the floor where it's worms and trash. I'm sure they're not giving the prisoners the best food on the ship, but he walks in here, sees food, and then he picks it up and he starts eating it. I think they're trying to go for like intimidation through like, he is like, I'm going to take everything that I want, and everything that's yours is mine, and I get this. But it just makes him look like this weird character that has no standards, no morals, no anything going on in his brain. He's just a character that is kind of like dancing through life. And even when he has the scene where he like has a little bit of a fight at the end with Lobo, and then he's dropped off the side of the ship, did you see his face in the background as Lobo was just kind of holding him there? He's kind of making goofy faces. He's pulling weird, odd, like silly grins and smiles and like just making faces at the camera, and it's like, what is going on with this villain? I don't understand or care about him in any way. And beyond that, him being 1,000 times stronger than any man makes no sense. Why is he this rare Bergen or whatever these villains are called, where he is just so much stronger than everyone else? Like, he gets hit by an entire ship and he just walks away from it. Why is he so different to everybody else? There's no explanation, there's no validation, there's nothing to make him feel three-dimensional or important or menacing or terrifying. It just all makes him feel goofy. And I couldn't get away from that the entire movie. I was just like, I don't care about this guy as a character.
I think that the goofiness of those kind of brutes works well in a group setting, because my immediate comparison within about 3 minutes of seeing Krem was that he's Drax, right? In that he's this super muscular, strong guy. Don't get me wrong, doesn't have the level of like character arc that Drax has, but is a bit silly, kind of says weird stuff, takes things way too lightly, but works well, Drax, because he has everyone else to bounce off of. I think with Krem is that there was no threat behind him. He felt like a henchman. He felt like he was the person that was working for someone greater, right? And that he was just going out. He was like, oh yeah, you have to help me traffic these girls because I want to populate just as men. I'm like, okay, I don't mind that sort of storyline. Like, they think we needed a bit more to that as well. I wanted to understand why they only wanted to be a race of men. You know, was it just because they are closed-minded idiots, or was it because that's where their strength comes from, or was it like written in their prophecy or whatever it might be? He was just like, he appears and they're like, oh yeah, they only want men in their group, so they traffic women. And then he spends the whole time, not apart from one scene, trying like where the women escape. You don't see him like hunting anyone else down. You don't see him doing anything more than picking up pie, eating grub off the floor, kind of squirming around looking silly. And then also, for a man that has the strength of 1,000 men, felt like he was defeated quite easily. Like, Lobo didn't do much damage to him, really. It was kind of a 3-minute sequence at the end against Supergirl, where a few lasers to the chest and then ultimately the sword was what got rid of him. So after this build up of like, oh, he doesn't care, he'll do whatever, he's super strong, you can't control him, to just being put down in an instant. Again, it felt like they hadn't figured out who he was going to be before they started shooting. They were like, oh, okay, we have this character that is as strong as Supergirl, like can stand up against her, which sort of feels like one of the main villains we had in Superman. His like biological twin, as it were, engineered twin. And then they started shooting. They hadn't actually given him an arc. So, as you said, it just didn't feel like a threatening villain at all, which was bizarre. Maybe that's not what they were going for, but I don't know what they were trying to achieve in replacement for that. So,
yeah, it's tough to kind of like really dissect it and figure out what's going on with it, right? Like, one of my immediate thoughts was like, how much did they actually draw from the comic with this? Now, I'll admit, I haven't read the comics. I haven't read the 8-issue series. I know it's based on Woman of Tomorrow. I know that like people that were involved with writing that comic, Tom King and Bill Evely, like they were somewhat involved with like the development of this story. But it feels like, so when I went away and I was looking at things after that, it was saying that like a lot of different things in the film have been changed. They lost like an entire sequence with one of the planets where it was like a really important central backbone kind of thing to the story that a lot of people engage with. And then other than that, like the ending, what they do with Krem ends up being very different. The way that they end up having like resolutions between Kara and Ruthie is different. And so it feels like they were trying to cram an awful lot of things and then also make them unique or make them different, and they just didn't achieve that to the extent that I would have liked. Like, it just ended up feeling very, very, very stunted. I think the entire time, like, there was a lot of things where throughout the first kind of like hour and a bit of the movie, everything just kind of like jumped from place to place. I said it already, but like it just feels that way, where they're going from planet to planet to planet. And it's not a setup in a way that is kind of subtle. You kind of are very aware that they're setting up all the pieces, and they're saying, oh, this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, to try and get the story in place. But then you're just waiting for the story to happen. So it doesn't feel like the Act 1 or the Act 2 are actually acts that you're engaged in and care about. It feels like these are all set up for what's going to happen at the end of the story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It did feel just like such a... Like, coming out of this, by tomorrow or maybe Saturday, once I've finished creating all my content with it, once I've finished editing this, I'll do a couple more TikToks, I'm going to forget about this film. This, like... If you ask me in a week's time, I could not tell you a single thing that happened in that middle 80% of the movie. Like, I've got the intro, and I've got the recency bias of what happens at the close, and that is it. It's all just a movie mush, right? I didn't like none of the extra characters. I couldn't tell you any of the names of any other characters. I couldn't tell you the names of any of the planets. I think it does a really poor job of grounding the viewer in sort of making them understand where we are, why we're there, and what you can expect to happen. It's kind of just, they've gone, here are a few planets in some comic books. Here's your main star. Here's a villain that we don't know what to do with. But don't worry, because we've got Jason Momoa as Lobo. Remember this exciting casting? He wanted it. The fans wanted it. James Gunn wanted it. They did this whole thing where Jason Momoa, like, oh, I text James Gunn being like, so, Lobo. And then James Gunn agreed to it. And he's a continuation because he was Aquaman. And it's like, he's being cast. Lobo is in this movie for, what, like 5 minutes screen time? Maybe?
Maybe a little more than that. But yeah.
I think his... I'm trying to think of his best scene. Because they don't have... do they have a fight between Supergirl and Lobo?
No.
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 Which I thought
would get. Yeah, he fights on side with Supergirl at the end. Yeah. Prior to that, he's in a prison cell next to Ruthie. And prior to that, he's in a bar. Yeah. And so that's kind of his whole through line.
I didn't know what they were trying to do with him.
Well, all the context of his story came from Kara. Kara was there in a bar and she's like, oh, it's Lobo. Oh, he's an immortal and he destroyed all the people on his own planet. So everything that you need to know about Lobo and everything that was trying to be conveyed about him was all just spat out in one little blurb of context. Yeah. And then none of that matters anyway, because he's just there and he's a bounty hunter and he doesn't care, but he's also not a very good fighter because there's loads of people. He's destroyed a whole planet's worth of people, but he's here fighting a couple of thugs and he's just like slowly getting through them. It's weird. It's weird. The power scaling is totally bizarre as well across. Just everything.
That is the one thing about it. There's no consistency to anyone's strength in this movie at all. Which is very frustrating because you're expecting this bit. You're like, right, 90% of the movie, I've not seen anything huge from Lobo yet. This final fight scene, he's going to go crazy alongside, and we're going to get like cool action shots of them both like jumping headfirst into a punch and like coming out the other side. And it's like, no, he dropped the main villain off the ship for a girl to fight and then gets on his bike and rides off. And it's like, hang on a minute, isn't this the guy we've just been hyping up for the last... basically like 2 years and then 90% of the movie as well? It doesn't make any sense to me.
To be fair, he throws a couple of grenades and drives a flying motorcycle off. But yeah, even in all of that, like you're saying, it's forgettable, right? So it's not even a thing that like imprints on your brain. It's just like, yeah, okay, more things happened, but nothing was like standout or special.
Now we'll circle back to some of those characters and we'll talk about the future of DC in a moment. Sure. I do want to say, I thought Crypto looked kind of good for a CGI animal. He was very boundy. He was full of emotion. You could really sense what he was trying to communicate with Kara. And, you know, we've been very negative because that's kind of how the film made us feel. But I would like to say, I think doing solely CGI animals is a tricky job. And they did a very good... Obviously, like, he's taken out of the movie quite a lot, because he's shot with with kryptonite, or some sort of whatever arrow, that poison.
Yes.
But I think when he was on screen, I fully got the enjoyment and the sort of love that he bestows upon Supergirl. And when he's like, questioning her decisions, he's very intelligent, and I think that does come through. So what they managed for me with Krypto was good, but obviously he's barely in the movie. So fleeting moments.
So what you're saying is the CGI dog that's not real is your favorite part of the film.
that might be the answer.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. But there you go. I've got to give it some praise where I can. How did you feel about sort of how it looked? You know, we've spoken about the script and the characters, but the visuals, right? That's like a third of what I give my scores for on movies.
Okay.
I kind of break it down in my mind. I'm like, right, the visuals, how it sounded, and the performances. That's kind of like the basic three that I look at.
Sure.
Visually, what was it like for you?
So, I mean, listen, they spent hundreds of millions in making this movie. So you would be very upset if it came out looking like The Flash, right? This has really good aliens. The characters, the aliens that are in there look really, really fantastic. I thought every single one of those characters feels authentic. They're very varied. They're very different. They all look quite interesting and intriguing. And so that was a lot of fun to kind of like see these different characters play out on screen. The planets, there wasn't a lot of variety like planet side of things. I thought I really enjoyed things that were going on in space, things with spaceships and things with the sun coming up and coming out. But like looks wise, yeah, I think across the board it looked pretty good. I think in terms of directing some of those visuals, it wasn't fantastic because, as I've said a couple of times now, where it's very jumpy and it's going from scene to scene to scene, but even within scenes where it's jumping from this thing happening and then this angle and this person, like it felt very rushed and just not very clean, not very appealing in that way. Like it kind of put me off. It kind of makes you a little bit nauseous how much it's kind of transitioning between the different things. But what I did like in terms of visual as well, and visuals that I thought stood out really well in the film were things like Argo. So when they were doing things on the planet and kind of engaging with that, I thought that looked fantastic. And aside from that, I really enjoyed when the yellow sun did come up at the end of the movie and then it shone light on Supergirl's logo on her suit, and then she puts that on and then we see her for the first time fully suited up. I thought that was very impressive, and I liked the way that they like built emotion into the visuals of that scene.
Yeah, I want to completely agree on sort of the aliens and how they look. I think the individualization of each of the characters that we got sort of in that space station section was brilliant. I really liked that. I think I was worried, or sometimes with these like space movies, everyone looks the same. They're like, oh, aliens are one monotone, like aliens are aliens, they all look the same. I liked how there were different civilizations, there were different groups of people. Each, like if there was a couple of the same alien type, they looked slightly different. I think that's good, and the costume design was cool. The doctor with like the big eyes and forehead, I thought she was cool as well. But I would say for me, this movie lacks like any color for what is a beacon of hope. And I know Superman is like that, the traditional beacon of hope, and Supergirl will eventually bring that sort of same vibe, although she is obviously right now that gritty teenager. I think in the space scenes, okay, I think the solar flare was quite nice and how that looked on the camera. But most of the fight sequences, like in a dull-looking bar, the Mad Max... I thought we were going to get like a cool Mad Max scene, by the way. You know, when they'd gone down into the dust and they were all on like their bikes and the sort of the quads and they were circling the dust. I was like, this is Mad Max-esque. This is really cool. And then it looks really bad. Like there's... Obviously on a dust planet, it's hard to find color. But there's just nothing for my eyes to grab onto. There's no... You know, I need some bright, flashy, shiny lights at some point. Because
to that point,
yeah.
To that point as well, they intentionally avoided a lot of that, right? Like the bar scene, you're saying like that wasn't very visually like exciting. They were focused on Ruthie at that point. She was sat in a corner, and you could kind of see Kara fighting in the background blurred. And it's like, what? Why are we doing this?
I hate those types of scenes. I hate when you are focused on one character and everything else is happening behind them. I find that so frustrating. And they kind of did it in the final battle sequence as well.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, we've done this once as a push, right? Once is really testing my patience, but doing it twice and basically the two biggest scenes, I'm
Yes.
like, oh, come off it. That it really frustrates me when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, the two biggest action scenes, 100%, it's switched over to being Ruthie's point of view. And it's interesting because in the comic books, again, so to refer back to Woman of Tomorrow, that comic is narrated from Ruthie's point of view. But this movie is meant to be planted and positioned in Kara's point of view. It's meant to be her life, her experience, and things like that. So I find it really bizarre that they do kind of shift the point of view back and forth between the two characters, but only when Ruthie is standing shivering and going like, whoa, what's going on? And then Kara's coming in to save her and she's in the background and you don't get to see that. Maybe there's more thought behind that. I'd love to see an interview with Craig Gillespie and see kind of like if he had reasons for what was going on with that. But it feels bizarre to have made it so intentional and so obvious, but just avoid things that were really exciting, you know?
So what's really interesting is the cinematographer for this is Rob Hardy, and he's done in the past Annihilation, Mission Impossible Fallout, Civil War, Ex Machina. I'm like, those all from my memory looked pretty good. Like even in Civil War and Ex Machina, which are very similar vibes most of the way through the film, like concrete heavy as well. It still looks, there's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of things for me to enjoy whilst absorbing the main characters' sort of conversations and how they're acting. This felt like I didn't know what they were trying to focus on. I didn't know where the camera was trying to be. I didn't know what they were trying to show off. There were no points where I thought they're really proud of that sequence. They're really proud of the way that looks, because either the camera wasn't focused on it, or when it was maybe in show, it was all slow motion, or it was cutting really quickly, or they were doing lots of fake blends to make it look like a one shot. So I spent.
I'll push back on that slightly because I do think what they did with the Supergirl suit and the logo specifically at the end of the film was that one thing where it's like they're intentionally and being proud of this, where there's a pop of color. But yeah, everything, you're absolutely right with everything else in the movie. There wasn't anything that they're kind of drawing your attention into in that way.
All right, let's move away from sort of the plots. And we've spoken a lot about where we have issues and some of the standout stuff. Before we move on to general talk around DC and whatnot, can you just give me how did you rate this? What did we actually give it? Have you given it a star rating so far?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot because the thing is, for me, okay, the thing that I will rate the story on most if I'm rating it for myself is story. It's development of characters. I love characters, and when there's a character that is developing and changing in a story, it really makes a big difference to me. I really, really like what they did with Kara at the end of this movie. I really enjoyed the fact that they had her kill Krem. I like that instead of going with that advice that her mother had the entire time, where it was a thing of like, oh, you know, keep yourself good, be nice, be kind. She is being good broadly. She's helping people. She's acting on the side of moral things. But there had to be consequences for Krem, right? Like, it would not have been satisfying for Krem to just be left on that planet and then get up and then go back to his raiding ways, harm all these people, do all these terrible things. So he needed to have consequences. So Kara being the one to issue those consequences and to kill him, that satisfied me in a big way because, and this is the reason why, for DC movies in general, for the DCEU and what it felt like coming into the DCU with like Superman, they've shied away from killing people. It's been a big point of like DC Comics where it's like, oh, if you kill people, then you're as bad as the other people. That's simply not true. Like, if you're killing bad people, it's not that, oh, now there's just as many killers in the world. If you kill 2 people, suddenly there's less killers in the world. You're only a killer once, and that like reduces the numbers after that. Some people are bad enough that they deserve to have consequences, and it'd be a bigger thing. So these superheroes, whatever your stance is on all these different things, that's fine, but it's a fiction movie, it's a fantasy, and this is a character who is not going to be like Superman, and we get to see that because she does issue that final blow. And what you said, where it was like, oh, she's trying to remodel it, I do think it's like stretching and digging more than maybe they intended, but her trying to make Ruthie that good character and follow that moral and then saving her from that, I think that's the really enjoyable part about this. So I have gone a little bit back and forth in my head on why I kind of rate this movie. And if I'm to go off of everything that we've talked about, I would have to give it a 2 out of 5 because I'd want to go below average. It's visually compelling. It's visually interesting, I should say, not compelling. There are some moments that I enjoyed, like I say, the last 15 minutes, and I like the arc that ultimately was there. While Kara was one note for most of the movie, I recognize this is part of a bigger franchise, and now we're going to see her in the future engage with characters on Earth and do these different things. So I'm excited to see where she goes next. And she's the most exciting part of this movie for me. In terms of dialogue and everything else that's going on, visual direction, everything, it's just like, what was happening here? So it'd either have to be like a 1.5 and a 2. I don't know. It's rough. You?
Well, I not to spoil my star rating, but I cannot believe that I've come out more positive than you after everything that I've said, at least in terms of like the star rating. I think for me, overall, it was kind of like they just want to get her into the universe. This is, I've not gained anything from this. It's like, right, Supergirl exists. We can't just throw her into Man of Tomorrow and everyone expect her to be like, oh, okay, she's here now. You have to give her that entry into that movie. And I was trying hard to not be like, oh, well, the future of her might be quite exciting. And I was looking at everything. Obviously, I think it looks not that great. I'm not particularly fan on any of the visuals on this. I don't think it's particularly funny. I had a very quiet audience. For a midday screening on a Thursday, it wasn't going to be full, but there was about 40% capacity. Very silent. Not because everyone was well behaved, but because we had nothing to react to. Yes. I found the funniest moments were with the Babu Frick looking character, voiced by Seth Rogen, the guy that co-drives the bus. When that character appeared, when he first appeared, I went, that's Babu Frick, first of all. And then he started speaking, and I went, that's Seth Rogen. And I knew immediately the next 10 minutes with that character I was going to love. And that genuinely that bus sequence might be my favorite part of the movie.
Okay.
And for that sequence alone, it gave it an extra half star. So I did put 2.5 stars into Letterboxd. I give myself a 48-hour leeway in that if on Saturday I wake up and I go, God, I do not remember anything about it, I will allow a bump down to a 2-star. Anything longer than a few days, I'm like, I make myself rewatch a film if I'm going to like majorly edit the review. I think if I was to watch this again, it would be like a 1.5. Because I think I would get no benefit out of seeing this a second time. Even films like Superman, right? I gave 3 stars on my first viewing. Second time round, I still gave it 3 stars. I didn't feel like it was any more boring the second time. I still got enjoyment out of watching it. This, I think I would genuinely be like watching the seconds go down if I was to sit through this again. Or it'd be like watching a brand new movie because I've forgotten it all. And then it's just like a whole brand new experience for me. So yeah, I'm giving it 2.5 at the moment, which might be generous, and I'll see how I feel tomorrow. But that was my immediate, I was like, it has to be below average. And I think people kind of look at the average on Letterboxd as a 3 out of 5. That's sort of like, oh, it was okay. It was good. You should watch it. But this I would probably tell people, if you're trying to keep your money for this or Spider-Man or The Odyssey or whatever, because some people only go like once every month, once every few months, skip this. You will be totally fine skipping this movie. I think it has no wider consequence to the grander DC universe. Speaking of, who will we see again from this movie? Supergirl, we're definitely seeing again. We won't see Krem. He's gone. I liked that. I want to say I agree. I liked that they killed him off. I think that kind of kept the tone of much grittier Supergirl, Superman, of the cousins. Will we see Ruthie again, do you think?
That was a very strange kind of ending in terms of what they did with Ruthie, right? Again, going back to the script and kind of talking about that. So they had it where Ruthie was like, oh, I'm going to be on this planet now with my aunt and I'm going to make swords like my dad did. And then Kara's like, oh, I didn't finish celebrating my birthday. She doesn't say or suggest anything after that. Is that an invitation home to Earth? Is that an invitation, let's go to a bar and celebrate that now the thing is over and we've done fighting? I don't really get it, what was going on with that. If I'm honest, I hope we don't see Ruthie again, because what's the point of her character? She grieved a little bit, she was sad, and now she's beyond
Yeah.
that. So
And
maybe
also,
she can be a friend for Kara to go back to, but it would feel weird.
also, as a child, she doesn't have any strength. She has no wielding of the sword abilities, which is natural. Like I was kind of worried in the final fight sequence when she pulls the sword out. I'm like, is she suddenly going to unlock some sort of superpower? And it's like, oh yeah, she was actually Jon Snow this whole time, and she's like, the way she wields this sword is like we've never seen before. I'm
Well, you
glad they
say
didn't
that,
do that.
but she choked out a guy in the prison cell. Do you remember? Like where she's in
That
the
is
prison
true.
cell, someone
That is,
comes in
yeah.
and she jumps on his back and chokes him with like the thing. So I think there is a little bit of a Jon Snow moment, to be honest. How is she overpowering a big old man? Like
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny because that was probably Jason Momoa's best scene for me, where he's just kind of reacting to that and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is great."
Yeah.
But like it was weird. And then she disappears into a vent above his head. I was like, we've never seen her display athleticism or
That's
like
what-
power.
yeah. I
I'm
was
like,
watching
what's
it,
going on?
and I was like, how the hell did she spring up that ceiling, like into the ceiling so quickly? We don't see her scale anything. Like she
Nothing.
moves a million miles an hour. So that is true.
Yeah.
She does have some crazy abilities that just clearly didn't address or
It's just
whatever.
weird.
And also, what annoyed me about that jail sequence is Momo or Lobo the whole time was like, "Don't touch the spikes, like they're deadly." And then she's crashing around this jail cell with this fighting this guy, and seemingly neither of them touch any spike. Like I thought, as that fight sequence was going on, I was like, "Oh, the guy will trip, and like his finger will prick the spike, and that will be he'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna die,' and then he dies." Like I thought that's what they were gonna go with, but they crash around and obviously he ends up dead presumably, but she's like fine. That she is not once hurt or anything.
It's
So I
wild.
kind of agree. I'm like, I don't think she'd add anything if we saw her again.
No, honestly.
Maybe we'll see her in like a picture frame, like in
Yeah.
Supergirl's apartment. I think that's the only way we'd see her.
And then I think Lobo is the only other character that could potentially come back, and I think they will definitely bring
They
him
have
back.
to have Lobo return, surely.
It has to
because-
be, because Momoa's been fighting about this for so long and trying to get the character out there.
Yeah.
But again, if he comes back, I want so much more out of him than what we got here. Like this was not enough. It wasn't good enough as the character. It wasn't anything interesting, you know? So I'd want a lot more out of him if we see him again.
Now, there were rumours that they would be getting a Lobo solo movie. That's sort of been something that Momoa has hinted that he would like. That is not confirmed, but there are plenty of upcoming DC projects that have been confirmed. So I just want you to give me a rating out of 10 in terms of hype and excitement for the following DC movies that we think are coming up, okay? So the first one we have coming up in October is Clayface. You know, how do we feel about that?
Rating out of 10, maybe a 6. It's slightly above the middle. I think it looks kind of interesting. The character of Clayface doesn't excite me, but you know what? This could be one of those things where it's like a villain movie and then it ends up being really, really interesting. It could be one of those like a Joker moment where it ends up being fantastic. I don't have anything against like the actors in it or the story that's going on. It's just Clayface as a character doesn't really interest me all that much. And this, as a whole big attached DC universe, we've seen Clayface already appear in Creature Commandos, and so there's a prequel story of how he became Clayface. So yeah, I want to. I'm gonna go and see it. I'll go and do that, but like, it's not a thing that I'm like actively like, yes, can't wait. Even it being a horror kind of superhero movie, like at this point, I think there's enough things that go into that genre that it's not like, ooh, this is crazy exciting for me.
Okay, so I'm a little bit higher on this. I like the fact we're getting an R-rated canon, like anti-hero, anti-villain movie.
Sure.
I think that's cool. That excites me. I'm a little bit confused by the Creature Commandos thing because I've heard that's canon, right, to the wider
Yeah,
universe.
it is.
So
Yes,
you're telling me
yeah.
that one is the Clayface we're going to be seeing, which
Yes.
half spoils where he'll end up, but half
Yes.
is like, that doesn't seem like it matches the vibe of what
Yes.
Clayface is going to be. So
Yeah.
I'm on like a 7.5 out of 10 because that Creature Commando element kind of brings it down half a point, a whole point. Because I'm like, how are you going to make this intertwine? I think Gunn has shot himself in the foot by making Creature Commando canon. Just like that's a project on its own. I think that doesn't necessarily have to be related.
Yeah, it's so wild and so extraordinary that it could easily stand out on its own. I think there's not enough of an audience for that show that you would have to say, oh, this is canon, even if you have watched it. But yeah, it does, exactly as you say.
And all right, then how about Batman Part 2? Obviously not directly in, or at least not yet confirmed to be included in James Gunn's DC universe. I think they don't want it to be, but I don't know whether they'll switch on that. But it's DC nonetheless. Are you excited for it? Out of 10?
11 out of 10. Aye for part 2. I am all in for it. Yes, it's part of the Matt Reeves universe of stories. So this is officially a DCU Elseworlds project.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like they're going to pull this in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, good.
If they do, it would be quite a retroactive thing to like try and do that, because obviously they've built out this kind of like version of Gotham, and it's a very weird and strange place, and things are going on. I am super excited. I'm excited about the announcement of all the different people that are coming in. Sebastian Stan is like everything about this is exciting to me. I'm sad that it's DCU Elseworlds, because I wish I could be more excited about as a DCU thing. But yeah, it's no, I'm crazy excited for it.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm like a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. I also, as much as I wish Batman Part 2 was 2 years ago, I like that Matt Reeves has taken his time with this project. It shows he cares. He's like, obviously, you know, everyone's been busy. Pattinson's been doing plenty other projects. He is one of the busiest men in Hollywood right now.
Hell yeah.
But not only that, it's like, well, we're not shooting until this script is 100% ready. And Matt Reeves didn't turn it in until he felt ready. But they took quite a while trying to cast who we believe to be Christopher Dent. We obviously know that is now Charles Dance.
Harvey Dent, or
no? So Harvey Dent's dad is also going to be in the film,
right? Yes,
which they spent ages trying to cast. They had like Robert De Niro, they had Brad Pitt, they had someone else, and now it's the guy that played the Lannister in.
Oh, like Tywin Lannister?
The dad, is that his name?
The dad one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's that actor who I think his name is Charles Dance.
That'd be good. Yeah, I think you're right. That sounds right.
Yeah, so it is Charles Dance. So yes, he is supposedly. It's not been confirmed by Matt Reeves, I don't think, but like all of the reliable people, Daniel RPK discussing film, have all said like that's who it's going to be. So I'm really excited. I think the wider cast is just as intriguing as the story itself, and I think Court of Owls are going to be a big part of this one.
Hell yeah.
Man of Tomorrow, the next in James Gunn's DC universe. This comes out July next year, I believe.
Yep. This might be surprising. 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm still very confused about it, right? Like when they announced it initially, I thought maybe this was going to be an animated movie, or this was going to be kind of like a side project movie, or it was going to be a small thing, because it was announced, and it was announced as being so shortly after Superman, and I was like, oh, surely they can't turn it around that quickly. And then it was like announced with like a comics book sketch, and I was like, oh, is it animated? Is that what's going on? It's not animated. It is a movie that's following, you know, we've got our main guy as Superman. Why do I not know his name right now? David Cornsweet. There you go, yeah. David Cornsweet. And then we've got Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I think it's going to be fun and exciting to see those two play off each other, but I don't know nearly enough about the movie right now. And it does feel very confusing, just as like, what are they doing? It feels like slipping in another story, and so I'm not all the way there for it.
Yeah, I think a 2-year turnaround as a sequel is insane. Obviously I'm very happy that we're getting a continuation of the story. I'm not having to wait 5 years, but 2 years seems really quick. And from what I understand of this storyline is that it's going to be Superman and Lex teaming up against something greater. We've seen some images of Lex in his suit. I've seen a lot of like set leak photos and things. So they are out there if you guys want to go look them up. I, specifically after this, I don't know if I care. Like, I'm already worried. We're 2 movies in to the new DC universe, and I already don't care. And don't get me wrong, like Marvel, when it came around, took a couple goes, right? The Incredible Hulk was the second Marvel movie, and that was panned, and like people hated on that. That got like 50-something% as well from critics. People didn't really enjoy it. But then it slowly built itself up. But quite quickly, through Iron Man, and then you jump straight into the Avengers within sort of a 4-year window, I don't see the next 4 years of DC being particularly exciting for me. Like the main storyline, we've got Superman sequel, so this is for me is the Iron Man 2. It's like this has to be really strong because he's your main guy. You're building your whole Justice League or whatever it will be around him, and it's like I'm already kind of getting ready to tap out. Now I wasn't really.
That's another thing that's confusing about it, because he's not saying that it's like a direct sequel. When he was announcing it and saying that, it's like, oh no, it's not a Superman sequel. This is a Superman and Lex story, and it's like, okay, so is it? But that's a Superman sequel. He's going to be a main component of the movie, and it's like, well, not really. And it's like, what do you mean? Are we going to see him like for half the runtime? Are we going to see him for the whole bulk? Like, it feels weird. I don't know how to care about these movies when everything is just weird.
Yeah. Now we're in this chapter 1 of this DC universe for James Gunn, which is Gods and Monsters. So I want to make it very clear, I am willing and wanting to give him maybe between 5 and 8 movies before I say I'm done. Now realistically, I'll probably still be there even if the next 10 are terrible, because not only do I love movies and superheroes, this is now what I do, and it's what you do as well. But like, before we talk about replacing James Gunn, like, we're not getting to that point yet. But within the next 2 movies that he does, if it doesn't drastically improve to a point where I come out of it and I go, I actively want to see that again, and I'm going to tell everyone else to go see it, we're going to be having some questions to, and I've got a lot of concerns already. Man of Tomorrow, I'm giving it a 6.5. I'm kind of intrigued, but I wouldn't be shouting about it. Let's rattle through a couple others really quickly. We know The Brave and the Bold is coming at some point. This is going to be James Gunn's Batman story. It is written, I'd just like to say this, by Christina Hodson, who did The Flash, which makes me a little bit nervous. I haven't seen Birds of Prey. I know she also wrote that. But from what I've seen on with The Flash, I am worried. I grew up watching the Brave and the Bold animated show. That was like one of my things growing up. Batman was my superhero for the first 10, 12 years of my life because of that show. I loved Brave and the Bold. It was so cool. I was like, we're getting a live action sort of that adaptation of that comic book line. Really cool with Robin, but concerned by the people attached to it. So I'm going to give it like a 6.5 as well.
Wow. I'd give it a 10, to be honest. I'm excited to see a Batman and Damian Wayne story, a Bruce Wayne and Damian Wayne story. Yeah. Christina Hodson, I understand that she wrote The Flash. I do think potentially her writing could have been strong, and then a lot of other things went wrong with the movie. Yeah. And so fingers crossed, that's kind of where my brain is for it. I was also very hopeful with... because you mentioned obviously the Matt Reeves script for the Batman Part 2 not getting passed until it was like actually ready, and that seems to be a really strong sticking point for James Gunn, where he's like, oh, I'm not going to let a movie go through until a script is ready and it's done and I feel happy about it. But seeing Supergirl and seeing what this end product has been, it does worry me a little bit in terms of the scripts and the ones that he's letting pass through. Because if this is the story that he's kind of been like, oh yeah, that's good enough to pass the mark, then I don't know what's going on with The Brave and the Bold. But regardless, 10 out of 10. Exciting. Okay,
cool. I do think with Supergirl, it's like, right, well, we had to get started with Superman at some point, right? That had to begin a year ago. And then Supergirl was like, well, we have to now have something like once a year, we have to have a mainline project. So I think this was probably the unfortunate scenario where something had to be pushed forward. And Supergirl kind of pulled the short straw, and it was like, all right, maybe it's not 100% ready, but we've got to go into production because now he's started his universe. He's going to be told by Warner Brothers he has to keep moving now at a good pace, and you're going to need something every 18 months to sort of try and keep up with the rest. Teen Titans is also an upcoming movie. We know nothing about it apart from the fact it's being written by Anna Nogueira, who wrote Supergirl as well. So same writer. Teen Titans, I kind of know of them, but not like 6.5, 7. I'm like, okay, I don't know enough to kind of form a full opinion here.
Teen Titans was one of the cartoons I grew up on. I really liked the original one before it went to Teen Titans Go. I watched all the Titans series and I enjoyed that. So I would give that an 8. I'm pretty keen to see it and see what happens.
She's also writing Wonder Woman, or is one of the two writers on Wonder Woman. They haven't cast her. I have a sneaky feeling I know who the casting of Wonder Woman is, and her name is like Adria.
Yes.
I don't
Arjona.
Arjona. Yeah, I think it's her. That's my like prediction, and I would be well up for that. I think she's pretty cool.
Yeah, her name has been passed around an awful lot, and I think even James Gunn commented on her, not confirming, but saying she'd be whatever. But yeah, I think she'd be a good fit. Wonder Woman, seeing the last two Wonder Woman movies,
This
unfortunately,
is the problem,
it kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth. So if I'm honest, it's probably at a 6, you know?
Yeah, that's also where I'm struggling. I'm like, I don't want what we've seen in the past with Gal Gadot to form an opinion, but it kind of has a play. So 6 at the moment. Again, we know nothing about it. We'll quickfire these last few. Sergeant Rock. I know nothing about Sergeant Rock as a character, but is written by the guy behind Challengers, Queer, and Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I mean, what a writer to have on this script. So based on that alone, that being like the only bit of information that I have, I'm looking at like an 8.5 because I trust this. I trust Justin with my life, but I know nothing about Sergeant Rock. Do you? Presumably,
if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Craig was supposed to be attached to playing that character.
Okay.
And so Sergeant Rock is a character that I think either was introduced or was supposed to be introduced in Creature Commandos. I don't know an awful lot about it. I'm going to be willing to give it a chance, but honestly, not knowing more about it, I'm not all that crazy excited. It's just a thing that's out there for me, so it's probably a 6 again.
And then last two, we've got an animated dynamic duo, which they showed a little bit of information about at Annecy Film Festival, which is still running. It's the world's biggest animated film festival, Annecy in France. Dynamic duo. This is about what are both their names?
Is this Nightwing and Red Hood?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think it's those two. Animated project. I like animated movies, but again, I don't know enough about it. I'll probably be like a 6.5.
I'm confused at how this is all going to fit into the world of Batman, right? Because they're Batman characters, and so it's good. I mean, Batman obviously is a little bit older, a little bit more grizzled, and has a son at this point. So I guess his story has been going on in the background in the DCU. But until we see other things, I'm really confused about what's going on Gotham side of things.
Yeah, so it says,
I don't know.
So the very basic plot that we have so far is it explores the early friendship between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, the Robins, as they navigate their dreams and differing visions of the future. I think one goes to join the Red Hood gang, and the other goes to join Batman. I think that's...
okay. So this is pre them turning into Nightwing and Red Hood.
Yes.
This is while they're both Robins. Yes. That's interesting. I like the kind of build out for that, so maybe a 7.
And presumably, if that's coming way before Brave and the Bold, the Batman casting will have to exist, because they can't say, "Oh yeah, well I want to go
join
fight with Batman," but you never see the guy at all. It's bizarre. And then the final one is there's supposedly a Bane and Deathstroke movie in the works. Live action as well, which would be cool. I like both those characters. Again, who's the casting going to be? Don't know. We don't know who's attached to it. Will it be like a sort of maybe how they go down Clayface? It's like we're getting an origin for our villains as well. They deserve their own story, and then we'll intertwine them with Batman. That's probably how I think it will go.
Yeah.
I like both those characters, so I'm like a 7.5. But again, know nothing.
Cool. I'm really into anti-villain stories, and I really like villain stories. I really loved The Joker, and I thought that was a great movie and a great approach to it, and you end up sympathizing with this character who is horrific in so many ways, and you recognize that they're horrific. I don't want Bane or Deathstroke to be good in any way, just like I don't want the Joker to be good. I want them to be pure evil, monstrous, horrific people. And so watching that play out, I think, is going to be a difficult balance. I think it was difficult to get Joker as right as they did, but they did. So if they can do that, great. But we saw with the Joker too that even the Joker can't do that all the time. So I'm going to put it to a 6.
Okay, all right. Now, we've just got a couple final things to go through. I want to quickly ask, do you have any broader DC castings that you would just love to see? Any character at all? If you had to pick one or two people top of mind if you've got, is there someone you'd love to see as Batman? You want to see a new Joker. You want to see whoever it might be. Is there a particular actor you just want to see in the DC universe?
Okay. So this is an obvious one, and this is one that's been thrown around. A lot of people have already suggested and said that they do well with it. But I think he would do well with it, and there's a reason that his name gets thrown around. Jensen Ackles as Batman.
Yeah, I
love that casting.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. He's just a great dude. He's built for that character, and he's been playing him and voicing him in animated shows for a while now. So he's already got an attachment. He already has a love for the character. He's had a long history of kind of like wanting to be attached to that character. And so if he could finally step into that role and be a slightly older version of the character and someone who's a mentor to a younger child, like this is just, that's the perfect way to do it. So I think that would fit, and I would love that. Another casting that I'd really like, and this is probably thrown around, I just haven't heard it for the last little while. Cameron Monaghan. Do you know Cameron Monaghan?
Is he the guy that plays Cal Kestis?
Yes.
In the Jedi Order games? Yeah, okay. So
he is indeed, yeah. So he's in Death Stranding games. He was also in Gotham. So Gotham was this series that was playing out on TV for a long while. And he played two characters that were essentially the Joker. It was Jerome and Jared Valeskis, or whatever their name is. And it was this creepy, eerie, insane version of the Joker that was, I think, outside of Heath Ledger's, my favorite to this day, even though they're not technically the Joker. They were so good in that role, and if he was to come back and to take on an adult version of that character and play it out in the DCU, I just think that'd be dreams come true, man. Like I would love that.
And he's a great actor as well, and I like what he does. I also hope that, side note, I hope he gets a live action version of Cal Kestis, because I think he plays that character perfectly. Yeah, I would like both those. I think for me, Jensen Ackles, I would perfectly sort of suit that Batman role, I think. On the sort of mainline Joker, we've had so many iterations of Joker, but he is a fan cast that I would also quite like to see, and that's Bill Skarsgård. I think he would do such like a mechanical, like absolutely batshit crazy version of Joker. And a sort of mix between his Pennywise and the villain that he plays in John Wick. I would kind of like a blend of those two characters. He's very like his size is quite intimidating, and I would like a bit more of a physical, imposing Joker. Because naturally you have to have Joker. Like Batman and Joker are like two peas in a pod. They come hand in hand, so he will appear at some point. Obviously, with Matt Reeves's universe, they aren't really having him as a mainline villain. I like that. Barry Keoghan is being busy locked up, and the less I see of Barry Keoghan, the better for me. So I would throw Bill Skarsgård in there if I was to, add in a casting as well. Do you have any final thoughts on Supergirl that you want to say before I've got a quick game for you? Do you have anything else you just want to throw in there quickly? Closing thoughts. Should people be seeing this?
I don't want to say no, because I want the DCU to take off, and I want people...
Yeah.
If you have the time, if you have the disposable income, and if you're into superhero movies, go and check it out. There are some things that are somewhat worthwhile, but there's a lot of caveats. There's a lot of boxes you need to tick to be able to be someone who's going to go in and really enjoy this movie. There are going to be things that you get from it, and you are going to have a better experience with the DCU overall, I reckon, if you watch this. But other than that, it's going to be on HBO Max in a little while, and you'll be able to see it very soon at home. So
I have a feeling that it will be on HBO Max quite quickly.
Yeah.
One thing that I forgot to ask you was, what do you think the audience will think of this? So there's obviously we've seen this like in the Thursday previews. Now the tomato meter for critics was at 59% after 45 reviews. Do you know what it's at now, or do you want to guess?
No.
Okay, so there's now 152 reviews, triple the amount of reviews.
Yeah.
What do you think the percentage is right now?
It's just for approval, right? So it's like better than not. I think it's probably gone up, to be honest. I think there's going to be a lot of people that would have gone in early and then had the more critical reviews, and they're the easiest ones to kind of put out there very, very quickly and have a violent and harsh opinion about it. So I would put it maybe mid-60s.
Okay. It's gone down. It's at 57% now.
Oh, well, not by much. 59 to 57.
No, yeah. I mean, barely moved, if not stayed the same, but triple the amount of, like, this is now, you have a critic consensus here. This is enough people for me to go, I kind of trust that a lot more than, like, when they first come out. Also, by the way, my opinion on, I've spoken about this many times on my TikTok. I hate Rotten Tomatoes, okay?
Yeah.
Like, as a score, it is so misleading because it's 57% of people liked the movie or thought there was positive aspects to it. So someone could have given it a 6 out of 10 and some people could have given it a 10 out of 10. You have no clue because the general number is just, a little bit more than half of them enjoyed it or found positives with it. So I would like to say I do think it's misleading. I think the audience will see a little bit more light in it, but not much. I'm going to say after a couple weeks, it will settle at 68%. That's what I'm going for.
I think that's a fair shout.
So we can next time you're on, we can see how accurate we were. Do you think it will? Do you think it will make much money? Superman had a budget of 225 million and made 618 million. I think that's a pretty good start for like a reboot of something, a brand new casting we'd never seen. So that would have made basically at least 100 million profit out of that. This had a budget of 170 million, needs around the $350 million mark to break even. I personally don't see it pushing break even.
Yeah.
I think it's going to really struggle.
I agree. I think these are blockbuster movies. It's almost guaranteed to cross the 100 million, 150 million.
Yeah.
Probably over that 200 million, but beyond that I do think it's going to struggle. I think especially with movies like this, there tends to be a lot more of a divisive kind of opinion, and then when there's kind of like politics and random things that get thrown in for no good reason. This is movies, man, so just enjoy it, you know. But like, it ends up being a less and less thing. So like you say, I think it's going to be out of the theaters maybe 5 weeks time. I think it's going to be on HBO Max in maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And I think that it'll probably sit around somewhere between 200 and 300 million.
Yeah. I also think it's come out, like, it's just after Toy Story 5, which is doing ridiculous numbers. And I think we'll probably still beat it in its opening weekend, you know. So
absolutely.
A tough time to come out, but, you know, these things happen. All right, Ben, thank you very much for all of your thoughts today. If you've got time, I want to play a quick game with you.
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it.
This will take a couple of minutes. I'm going to get you to blind rank 10 DC movies, all right? This is from all 3 variations of DC we've had in the last 20 years. I have picked 10 movies at random, okay? I'm going to get you to blind rank them, and then I can stitch you up in a nice clip for TikTok. All right, so blind rank 1 to 10. Where would you put Supergirl? 2026 Supergirl.
It's got to be a 4, man.
A 4. Okay, I feel like that's kind of high, but that's okay. But I guess you don't know what's
for Supergirl 2026. Oh, we're ranking out. Oh, so I'm putting these on the 1 to 10.
1 to 10, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 being the best of DC movies, 10 being the bottom of the barrel.
Sure. Okay.
He's just changing his opinion. He actually thinks Supergirl's at a 4.
No, DC has had a lot of terrible garbage over the last little while. So honestly, it probably would sit somewhere around that. I'm going to put it 5 in the middle. I think that's a safer bet.
Okay, I think that's a smart move. First movie in, we'll go with Supergirl. All right, number 2, 2023's Blue Beetle. Did you? If you didn't see any of these movies, let me know.
No, I did. I watched it. Again, it wasn't memorable enough, and it came at that kind of awkward point where it's like, oh, the DCEU doesn't matter anymore. I really liked Zolo I can't remember his last name, but like the guy who plays that main character from Cobra Kai.
Zolo Mariduena is his name.
I'm just thinking whether or not I put it just immediately above or immediately below Supergirl at this point, if I'm honest. I'm going to put it in 4.
In 4 is crazy work, by the way.
This is crazy.
This has got to be one of the worst films I've ever sat through. I think it's
better than Supergirl.
Oh, okay, interesting. I tell you what, it has a lot more color to it. It is much more visually appealing.
Yep.
And I remember coming out of that film with my best mate. We watched it and we were like, if this is the future, because the DC, this was like in Dwayne Johnson's like reboots of the DC universe, and they were all going to tie in together. And I was like, oh god, right, we're in for
it's the Fast and Furious of DC movies. It was like a family means everything. You know, that's what it was. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Number 3 on your list. We're going for Joker. 2019's Joker.
Damn. See, you picked 10 random movies, so we could have even got, like, The Batman in here. Flip. Joker's either 1 or 2. That's, like, where it's going for me. So it's just whether or not something else is going to be better than this. I'm going to put it at 2.
Okay.
In the hopes that, like, The Batman is in this list. Otherwise... I don't think anything compares.
Otherwise, TikTok's going to hate you for this list. All right, number 2. I like that for Joker. I would certainly put it in my. I know I don't want to give any clues away, but definitely my like top half. Anyway, just like I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's very good. So for number 4, Joker Folie à Deux, the sequel.
Yeah, trash. Let's put that down.
You've got 1, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 left.
I'm gonna go 8.
8. That is generous. That movie, yeah.
I don't know what else is on this list. I know there's trash in the DC bag.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at these and I'm like, I can't believe you put it there over that. And it's like, oh yeah.
No. Nonsense.
Yeah, that was a bizarre time to be alive, that movie. Because I remember when it was first announced, we were like, oh, okay, that didn't really feel like it needed a sequel. Like it made a lot of money. What, it didn't make $1 billion, something like that. I was like, obviously it was gonna do.
The first one did, yeah.
Yeah, the first one.
But this one made almost nothing. It was trash.
And then I was like, oh, and then I heard that it was gonna be a musical and Lady Gaga, and I was like, ah. Oh. And it turned out exactly how
I was so upset, though. So many people had no idea it was a musical going in. And I think that really dragged it down, too. Because that was made clear. But there were other things that were bad about the movie. But yes.
For sure. All right. To take us halfway through this list, we're going for 2023's The Flash. I think it was 2023. 2022.
Yeah, that can take 10.
Take 10?
Yeah.
I think that's a good spot. All right, you've got 1, 3, 6, 7, and 9.
Yep.
How about 2025's Superman? The refresh of James Gunn's era.
Yeah, I'm putting that at 3.
3, okay.
It can't be better than Joker, but it's also better than Blue Beetle by a lot. And better than Supergirl.
It's so much better than Blue Beetle, yeah. Most definitely. All right, how about everyone's favourites, right? This has gone down in history as one of the greats. 2019's Shazam.
So the first Shazam?
Yeah, the first Shazam, not Gods of Fury, Fury of the Gods.
Listen, the first Shazam is not as bad as the second one. The first one was kind of decent. It was tongue-in-cheek, it was cheesy, it was quirky, but it's not the worst of what DC had to offer. I will put that... Hey, it's crazy that they have so many garbage movies. What do I have? Do I have 6 left?
You have 1, 6, 7, and 9.
6, 7. Let's go. Okay, it's risky. 7.
7. Okay. All right. Shazam in at 7. Let me cross that out. All right. So you've got 3 movies
6, and
left.
9, right?
1, 6, and 9. A nice spread. I think you know. We've got Man of Steel. 2013's Man of Steel.
6.
6. Okay.
I don't have to think about that one. A lot of people love that. I am not a Snyder bro. I really don't like the depiction of Superman. I don't like him not saving Pa Kent. I don't like him killing the villain at the end. There's a lot of things that I get annoyed about. I love Henry Cavill. I think he could have done so much better as Superman, but that was not it.
Yeah. I kind of forget that whole era existed, but it's it's there nonetheless. All right.
1 and 9. I am at both sides of the scale here. This
Yeah.
is bad.
1 and 9. All right. Well, you wanted a Batman movie, so
Okay.
Dawn of Justice or whatever it was called, Batman versus Superman.
9. Immediately
9.
9.
I think that's
It's the worst. I
that's-
fell asleep in that movie. I never fall asleep in movies, ever.
Yeah.
I fell asleep in that, and then I went back and watched it, and it was still trash. It was awful. Martha.
Yeah, that was a sequence. Some people like Batfleck, but I can't believe
Batfleck wasn't my biggest problem.
I can't believe you've managed to swindle this. But your number one movie, right, from ranked. So in 10th place, The Flash. 9th place,
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah,
8th
I agree
place-
with that.
Yeah, that's a good start. 8th place, Joker Folie à Deux. I think so far,
Okay.
perfect, bang on.
I
7th,
feel good.
Shazam, good. Okay. 6th, Man of Steel. I would maybe switch this with Blue Beetle. Fifth,
Maybe.
Supergirl. 4, Blue
Yeah.
Beetle. 3,
Yeah.
Superman. 2, Joker. And at number 1, this is written approval. Ben Gibbons' favorite DC movie is Green Lantern. Unbelievable. Give it up for Green Lantern. Wow. You might be
Wow.
one of 2 fans out there.
Wow.
But well done for speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds had
Maybe
his
I was
time.
just confused, and I thought you were talking about the Lantern series coming out, you know? And I was like,
Possibly.
oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, no. Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds, bad times.
So yeah, that's your number 1, Green Lantern.
It couldn't have been number 9. It's so much better than so many other things.
But over,
No,
I'd say most of that ranking is not too bad, to be honest. I was purposely trying to stitch you up with leaving Green Lantern last. I was like, he's either
Yeah.
going to put it in like 8th or 9th, or it will end up being first, and my dreams will come true.
There we go.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on again. Loved having you here. I hope everyone has enjoyed listening. If you have any questions for Ben and I about the film, if once you've seen it, you want to leave your opinions. Once Ben is back on, we can go through those.
100%.
Ben, where can they find you?
Benjamin Blogs. You can find me on Screen Rant at Ben Gibbons. You can find me all over the place. I'm on TikTok. I'm everywhere else. So, yeah, go look.
Amazing. Thank you very much. All of Ben's links will be down below. I will be uploading plenty of clips and more reactions and stuff over on my TikTok, so make sure you guys check that out. And we'll see you soon.
Cheers. See you soon.